remind you that you're lucky enough to be on camera somewhere. Okay. Good morning. We welcome you to the regular meeting for the Board of Trustees for the Utah Transit Authority on today, which is Wednesday, December the 16th. Oh, excuse me, January the 16th. I do have the right agenda this time. Sorry about that. Why don't we, I'm the board chair, Carlton Christensen, joined by my colleague, Beth Holbrook. And if you'll stand and join us in repeating the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we do with any of our meetings, we'll start with our Safety First meeting, and we have Dave Garris with us.
Thank you, Chair. Always try to hit you with three. So we have a monthly safety poster that we put out. Again, the weather, we are not done with the snow yet, and so remember that is clearing off your sidewalks, putting out the snow, and walking defensively so you're not slipping around. Also, just want to reiterate, since it's the first month of the year, that we send out a monthly bus safety bulletin. So we always talk about things preventative. Bus safety bulletin, we always recognize operators who do a good job. Just want to read one of them from Timpanogos. Operator Clover Glazier was traveling southbound on State Street at approximately 1600 north in Ogden. It was nighttime, lighting and visibility was low. Without warning, a car that was also southbound crossed 2 lanes of traffic and cut in front of the bus. Operator Glazier's attentiveness and quick reactions allowed her to take controlled, evasive action, avoiding any contact with the other vehicle. Great work, Clover. Our camera systems trigger events on the bus to record many of the good things that our operators do, and the amount of incidents that they avoid on a daily and monthly basis is outstanding. So we just want to recognize them. We do that in our monthly bus bulletin. Thank you.
Thank you. We would just also make note that one of the reasons we have our laptops on our desk, we're not checking the latest stock quotes. This our agenda, and we appreciate the opportunity to save a few reams of paper. Let's go next to our public comment period. Bob, do we have anybody?
We have no public comment today.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then next, I'll entertain a motion for approval of our minutes from January 9th.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Your mic's on. You're good.
Oh my goodness. My apologies. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the board minutes of January 9th, 2019 as written.
Second, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll next go to a presentation on our fourth quarter investment report with our CFO, Bob Biles.
Thank you, Chair. So here's the fourth quarter report. There was no transactions for the quarter buying or selling. So these are our holdings as of December 31st, about $227 million. The average return is about 2.6% if you divide the 5.9 by the 227 million. And then the comparison to our benchmark return, which is in this case the 3-month T-bill of 234, 237, and 245. We've been above those with the capital investors and the PTIF.
Bob, remind me, I mean, it seems like, at least in the Public Treasurer's Investment Fund, the money is fairly liquid, meaning like you could probably get it back in less than a month, I would guess.
It's fairly short. If we were seeking to get all of our money, it might take a little bit longer than a few days to get it. But yes, they have maturities every day for normal activity. If we saw that we needed to withdraw monies in a larger amount, then we just have to give them notice and work that out with the PTIF. They're very good about that.
One other question I have, and probably everybody, I remember at the county, every time the government went through a shutdown, it was what in your department is affected or not affected. And fortunately, most of the things in mine had a long window to sort of the reimbursement piece. And so does that affect us at all during this extended shutdown?
So at the end of the year, we had about $16 million in receivables from the federal government. Part of that was our preventative maintenance. Part of that was capital.
Okay.
But about $16 million. We typically wouldn't draw that down until about the middle of January. So in that respect, the clock is ticking now for us just because of that. It's about $1,200 a day in interest that we're losing. Fortunately, we don't have any major capital projects right now that have federal support. The one that's probably the largest in our 2019 budget's the Tiger program. Okay. And not much is going on right now.
So we're able to manage it with that?
We're able to manage that, certainly.
Yeah. Okay.
Bob, is there anything in the near future, in the next couple of, like 6 months, that could impact that negatively?
Well, it'd be the preventive maintenance. It's about $6 million a month that we get from the federal government. So as long as that goes on, that keeps piling up. And then it would be the capital projects that have federal sponsorship, the grants. And I believe our budget for this year was about $50 million in grants.
Hopefully it resolves itself soon for a lot of reasons. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Let's see. Looks like we need to entertain a motion to adopt that fourth quarter investment report.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the fourth quarter investment report as presented by staff.
Second, any other discussion? I'll just add, Bob, thanks to you and your staff for looking for opportunities that are reasonable risk but have at least a fair return to it. Those are a lot of funds, and you know, days make difference, and so thank you for your efforts there. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Next, go to item 7 on our agenda, our agency report with Steve Meyer. Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Just one item I'd share with you is some of the work that Trustee Holbrook's involved in and our staff with Spike 150, the 150th anniversary of the driving of the Golden Spike. And we got multiple efforts going on there. There's a lot of coordination. In the next several weeks, I anticipate we can bring to you a more full picture of what we anticipate UTA's participation will be in that effort. But we are reaching out with the counties, Weber and Box Elder counties, and Ogden City, and trying to help support their community events that they'll have associated with that anniversary.
Beth, anything you want to add to that at this point? Or I know you've been working on it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are, obviously it's an ongoing discussion with the organization, and we have had several really good meetings recently just to kind of define more of what the expectations are and how we can implement that, and how we can partner really successfully, because we obviously would like to see this be very successful. It's a big deal in the train enthusiast world, and we also think it's a big deal obviously for the counties and cities that are impacted. And so we, as Steve mentioned, we hope to have a more full presentation in the next couple of weeks or so. But it's been exciting to be involved in that.
Steve, anything else?
That's it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is item 8, which is a resolution for adopting the amended Utah Transit Authority Employee 457 Deferred Compensation Plan. And I know as Kim Muhleberry comes forward, let me just state that, you know, as we looked at this particular benefit, which is a great benefit, it's a great benefit to every employee at the Transit Authority, and one of the benefits that we wanted to see take place is that employees, you know, from the start of their employment are able to contribute on their own to the plan, and everyone knows that, or I think we all know that, good retirement benefit, not only do you need your defined benefit plan, but you also need additional savings to help shoulder, cost of living increases and those things. It obviously affects some of our executive employees, and we are appreciative. We know that's a change, and I think as a board, we're not reflecting on prior decisions. This is really forward-looking, but Kim, do you want to talk about what those changes entail?
Sure. Thank you. Pretty much, there's a couple things we're trying to do here in this resolution. The first is our plan document we've adopted from ICMA as kind of a standard document. It had changed last fall, and they had just incorporated 4 amendments that had happened over time. And so we took this opportunity to just we wanted to take that opportunity to just adopt that new plan document and restate some of the key pieces that were in that plan document. And so those are some of the pieces that you see in this resolution. But the main substantive changes that you'll see in the resolution are sections 1C here that just restates what the plan is. The plan itself for all employees is not changing. However, restating it this way does discontinue the previous 7% match that the executive team was receiving. So this piece really just states the same plan for all employees, including your executive team. So effective moving forward, that match will be a $2 for every $3 deferred by the employee up to 2% of their salary, and that's for all employees. That's the one major substantive change. And then the other substantive change is in Section E, where we just define an employee and who can participate. Our plan used to require a 1-year waiting period, and that is what you were referencing before, as we made that determination that our employees really needed to start participating as soon as possible. And so this allows all employees, with a couple of exceptions on our external trainees. So when they go to work as regular extra board bus operators, train operators, or they will be able to participate on that date. And then interns and part-time temporary employees are excluded. But generally, this just allows our employees to start contributing and also receiving the company credit towards the company match for the following January on their first date of employment.
We had the fortune of, and it was a nice job, by the way, of going through new employee orientation on
Great.
Monday. And we were incognito until Bob called us out.
Yeah, sorry about that, Bob. I forgot to tell you that.
But it was okay, and we had some great interactions as part of that sort of get to know you piece, and got to know those that were sitting around us. But and understandably, they were describing what the plan was as it previously was,
Right.
and I almost raised my hand, and then I thought I definitely don't want to confuse messaging, and how do you see us letting employees know about what their options are?
So we are planning a targeted communication for our new employees who would be eligible now as of the date of this resolution. So we'll go back to anyone hired who are within that first year and do a targeted reach out to them. We have about over 300 people that we're talking about. We also have our regular 457 communications to try to get people to participate that we're scheduled to come out in the next little bit. We're going to focus on that new employee population first, and then we'll roll out that regular piece in a couple of months.
No, I just wanted to say thank you again, Kim, for all of the detail in the background. It was really helpful in having all of our discussions to kind of figure out where we were at and how it would look best moving forward in a consistent way. So thank you so much, and thank your team.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah. And I would also say to our executive team who are affected, we value their work. This is a change, and I think anytime there's a change to compensation, it's never any fun. And but we value, and I think as we go forward, we'll assure that we have competitive price salaries and other aspects that will continue to draw very qualified people when those occasions arise.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion on the resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the amended Utah Transit Authority Employee 457 Deferred Compensation Plan, R 2019-01-03, as presented.
Second, we'll go to roll call.
Trustee Holbrook?
Aye.
Chair Christensen?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item up are contracts, disbursements, and change orders. And first on the docket is Eddie Cummins in regards to an on-call maintenance for the Weber Davis Tooele bus stops, Phase 3.
Good morning. This is a task order to our on-call maintenance contract with Stacy and Whitbeck for Weber Davis and Tooele County bus stops. This task order is for construction of 24 bus stops. Change order value is $250,000. That brings the total contract cost to $27,979,066. This $250,000 be used to build 17 bus stops in Davis County, 3 stops in Weber County, and 4 stops in Tooele County. These projects are in the 2019 budget and are funded by Prop 1 funds from each of those counties.
And Eddie, I don't expect you to have an answer to this. Bus stops were always sort of the unknown world to local elected officials. Like, why do they, well, first of all, restrooms in parks, I could never figure out why they were $500,000. And, you know, bus stops, when I look at some of those prices and, you know, sort of divide it seems like a lot for a pad of concrete. On the other hand, I realize there's a lot of dynamics that go into how they design and construct those, and I just wondered if you are able to speak to that at all. Or?
I could speak to that. I kind of anticipated that question because I see the same thing when I see these prices sometimes. The big one on this one is it's a bus stop in Centerville. That one bus stop alone is $67,000. And so let me explain why. If you're familiar with the Centerville area where the post office is, okay, that is our highest used bus stop in the Centerville area. We've been working on this for probably 3 years, since probably late 2015, early 2016. We've been working with the city on this area. And so what this requires is, if you're, like I said, if you're familiar with that area, it's a very narrow road. So in order for us to be able to service that stop, we need a pullout. And so when you create that pullout, obviously that creates some cost. And then since it's at the post office, we have to kind of do some other modifications to be able to allow people to still drive in and drop off their mail. So just that one stop is very, very expensive. I have a couple of more. There are four of the stops that are on this list are somewhere between the $20,000 and $24,000 range. What drives that cost a lot of times is the ADA compliance. So a bus stop at the slope can't be more than 2% grade. So a lot of times when you get into these areas where where people are boarding and getting off the bus, we have to do a lot of modifications to those areas with slopes. Sometimes there's a retaining wall. Lots of different things have to happen.
Well, thank you for that. Somewhere in, I think we've had a conversation with Steve. We should have a conversation with local officials, just because I think back to a lot of the sort of public work or capital projects, and there were probably opportunities to integrate the work together, and there's always a lot of cost of mobilization for any contractor, and I just think if you have somebody on the site melting up the public right away, it's a good time to fix it, right? Do you get those opportunities very often with communities? I mean,
we do. A lot of times we work closely with UDOT, and if they have something going on, a lot of times they'll go ahead and build us a stop. So our planning staff meets with those folks on a regular basis. We're in tune with what's going on in the cities, and a lot of times there is a lot of collaboration and coordination to save some dollars there. We did a a project last year with West Bountiful and Centerville on a sidewalk project over on, I think it's 1250. And that was everybody coming to the table. There were some Davis County funds as well as city funds and UTA funds that came together to make that project happen. So we do work together on a regular basis.
Do you have any other questions?
I just had a comment that that during this discussions that we've had previously, one of the things that you mentioned to me that I thought was very impactful is that some of these previous stops, I mean, I'm sure we're all familiar with the sign that was kind of like planted in the walkway type of area. It's a little grassy, you know, somebody maintains it, maybe. One of the things that I thought was really impactful is the ADA compliance portion of that can actually allow people that have these challenges to be able to now utilize public transportation. And that's, I think, one of the features that is really valuable because that allows that increased mobility. And having the new orientation for employees on Monday and having some of those actual customers come in really was impactful because understanding their needs and their dynamics is just going to hopefully increase our value when we do these ADA improvements. So I just wanted to make that comment and say thank you for giving, you know, that background and perspective.
You bet, and that kind of goes to what you were saying as well, Chairman. A lot of times the cost is involved in the sidewalk. It's not just pouring the pad. You know, so if you have a bus stop location, you pour a pad, it's one thing to be able to allow a passenger in a wheelchair or mobility device to get off, but then they have to be able to get somewhere. So a lot of times there's joining sidewalks that gets them to an intersection and connects with another sidewalk. And so as we've gone with our program, we found that in a lot of areas there's missing sidewalk pieces that in order to really make our system accessible, we have to fill in those sidewalks.
Unless there's other discussion, I'll entertain a motion on that particular contract.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the change order on-call maintenance for Weber Davis Tooele Bus Stops Phase 3 as presented.
Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
A point of order. We need a roll call vote.
We do need a roll call. I'm sorry. Thank you. Let's go to a roll call vote.
Trustee Holbrook.
Aye.
Chair Christensen.
Aye. It's
unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Next contract is our Eco Trip Rewards trip-based agreement with IHC Health Services. And have Monica Morton with us today.
Good morning. Today I have two revenue contracts. The first one is our agreement with IHC. IHC is currently participating in a pay-per-trip contract with us. The pricing has been approved in Resolution 2018-06-07. We're seeking approval because this is over $200,000. They do pay us on a month-to-month basis, and so we're estimating the contract to be about $833,000 for the year.
You call that a paper?
They're paying per individual trip that they take. That's what we bill them, yes.
Oh, okay. And why would an employer do that over, say, just giving them a pass?
Yeah, the reason IHC does it is because they pay for 100% of their employees to use the system, so they want to have a pass in every pocket, and in this case, it's a good value for them because they know not every employee uses it, and they also bill back the employees a set fee out of the paycheck if they do choose to participate. So it's a model that they've set up that is the best value for them between subsidizing a large cost of it and then having the employee pay a portion as well.
Monica, does that include every aspect of mass transit?
It does.
It's front runner. Okay.
Yes.
Thank
you. I'll entertain a motion on this particular contract.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Eco Trip Rewards trip-based agreement with IHC Health Services Incorporated.
Second. We'll go to roll call.
Trustee Holbrook.
Aye.
Chair Christensen.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
And the next one, Monica.
The next one, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they also participate in a PASS program. The structure of the pricing is a little bit different, but the pricing was also approved in that same resolution that I mentioned earlier. They do pay us on an annual basis up front, and so this is a $1.7 million contract for their about 6,000 employees.
And obviously they have a huge presence in the downtown area, but does this go through their workforce through our area, I assume?
It does, and they have a very complicated organizational structure that entails several locations, but we have a lot of their locations, and it does span the entire service area, all modes, including front runner as well.
This doesn't include like BYU or LDS Business School?
It doesn't. Those are two separate contracts.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any questions?
None for me. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion on that particular contract.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the EcoPass agreement with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as presented.
Second, go to roll call.
Trustee Holbrook.
Aye.
Chair Christensen.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Monica.
Thanks.
Our next item is a discussion item, and this is about Project X. It sounds like a secret spy project, but or somebody had fun in naming it, but it's dealing with our electronic fare collection system. And Dave Garris, Dave, do you want to give us an idea how they got the name Project X?
We had so many different names, we just said, let's just go with Project X. Officially, it was Project Butterfly 89. That just didn't sound really intense.
Not quite as
Not very
motivating.
transit.
Yeah, not transit friendly. So I just want to appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to tell you what Project X, Butterfly 89, and a bunch of other names is.
Okay.
And then Dan Harmuth, our Information Technology Director, is going to introduce the team that actually did this. What it is a rewriting of the electronic fare collection system. So as Monica just talked about, the Eco Passes, the Ed Passes, all of our electronic passes that we use to tap on the system go through our electronic fare collection system. And so this gives us an opportunity to recognize people. What happened was Dale Burr, who you will meet in a little bit, came up and said, you know, we have been involved with this for such a long time. Utah Transit Authority was the first transit agency in the United States to have an account-based card system. And so if you travel elsewhere, you have a card and it has a value on that card. You lose that card, you're in trouble. Ours is account-based, so everything's in the back office. And when you tap, as Monica talked about, it might be a single trip, it might be a fare pay card, it might be the UTA cards. That goes through the calculation system. So if you go to the next slide, these systems that are developed across the country, and they continue to happen, cost in the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, literally, to implement. UTA went through this process over the past 10 years, and starting in December of last year, December of 2017, we had a project charter that essentially replaced what you see up there is the EFC, electronic fare collection back office. All the calculations, all the information that comes through, we replaced the heart of the entire system. We did this with in-house developers and a contractor, and were able to complete it. The big part or the benefit for UTA is that we were paying the vendor, once we had the system up and running, over $1 million a year in maintenance fees. So that was their opportunity to maintain the system that we had actually helped create along with them. So we did develop this over a year. We finished it in October of last year so that we could give notice by the contract to the vendor. It is now called Electronic Fare Collection Extension, EFCX. So we're keeping that X in perpetuity, but that's the new system that went on. And then as you see, so this is the first diagram that we created in identifying what we were going to do for this project. And you can see the butterfly theme continues throughout. So what it did was it replaced the data storage back office, the back office fare engine, so all the calculations that have to be done for every card and for fare pay cards, and the account management portal. They also created, if you go to the next slide, the results of this was that we achieved this in a year, literally in a year, something that has taken us over the past 10 years to develop and perfect or improve. We were on time and on budget. We actually saved money on the development plan. This is now going to result, or is resulting in an annual savings of over $800,000 to the agency. And so it is a fiscal benefit to UTA, as well as something that we can take a lot of pride in. What you see up there is a $1 million bouquet that customer service sent to the EFCX team as a benefit and thanks for what they did, because as it shows up there, they created a new web interface, a new website. We have stakeholders throughout our system that actually can manage their own account. And so there's a new website that they can go into, and have received many compliments on the simplicity of that system and the benefit to the stakeholders. So customer service has commented what the brochure or what the sign on there says is that they've had a reduction, 10% reduction in calls from people in the first 2 months of implementing this, because in a event we had on Monday, one of the common problems with Fair Pay, the previous system, was that they would overcharge. And so on a $250, it might charge them $3, and customers would call up and say, hey, I got charged $3 instead of $250 on this. Since this has been in place for the past 2 months, there have been 0 overcharges on any cards. So the impressive development that our developers did has come to fruition, and you can see some of the stakeholders. And then again, in our effort to focus on the customers, the impact in when we transitioned this and implemented this and changed over from the vendor's software to ours, seamless to the customer. They had no idea we were doing it, which is exactly what we want to have happen on any of our technology projects. So Dan, can you come up and give a few comments on the team?
All right, thank you very much. Chair Christensen, Trustee Holbrook, I'm Dan Harmuth, IT Director. I've been here at UTA a year and a half, and just to fill in some of the space between the lines that Dave didn't say, a couple months after I got here, Dave and I engaged with the vendor to renegotiate the contract. The contract was coming to an end. We had the system in place. We didn't have a replacement system at the time, so we were renegotiating the contract, and we felt, both Dave and I and some of the other IT staff, that we were being overcharged greatly. But the vendor did not want to lower the price very much. They gave us a couple $1,000 reduction every month. But there was some problems with the system even with that. The system was versions behind that the vendor had promised to provide to us. As Dave alluded to, the system wasn't even calculating the fares correctly. There was an issue log that was outstanding for many years. There was some other contract obligations that the vendor didn't meet for over the 5-year period of having a redundant location in case the primary data center went down and their system was not PCI compliant. So taking all this into account and the overcharges that we thought maybe we could do it better. One of the programmers that's Dale Burr, and he's in the back, he came up to me. I was having a one-on-one meeting, and he told me, he said, Dan, we could rewrite this program, this system ourselves. Well, of course, I was only here a couple months, and so I took that statement and, wanted to think on it and study it. Jerry Van Wee, who was the project manager, he was the manager of fares at the time, and he would always tell me about the problems in the systems as well. And so that, taking those into account and the contract renegotiations, I asked Abe, our senior manager of development, to form a team and create a feasibility of, could we do it in-house? What would it take? How long? And those things. And they came back and said we could do it in 1 year with 5 FTEs. And just to frame that a little bit, the same vendor that we had has been developing a similar system for DART, for Dallas, and they use about 30 to 40 to 50 resources, and they've been developing their system for years. And Dallas is paying many millions of dollars for the system. To couple that, the vendor was using the money that we were paying them for resources to build the DART system. So we put the feasibility together, and Dave, after briefing Dave several times, he agreed. We took it to the VPC, to the other vice presidents and executives and chiefs, and briefed them. And They agreed to it. Dave had the final decision. Jerry Benson, the CEO at the time, gave the final decision to Dave. And Dave took, he had trust and confidence in IT and took a risk on our project in IT to take this on. And so we received the okay and the funding to go ahead with it. Our funding was about $200,000, so a mere fraction of what we pay per year. We formed a team with about 2 senior program engineers, 2 to 3 contractors, 2 were on staff most of the time, and 1 came for a little bit. And the project manager, Jerry Van Wee. Jerry, why don't you stand up? And so Jerry, we borrowed him for finance. He was actually the manager of FAIRS system, but he also has some IT background with Intel Corporation and project management with them. And by him knowing the system, being the manager of FAIRS, and also having an IT background, I felt that he was a good candidate for project manager. And he also had, he was also vested in the project. So we borrowed him from finance half the time from Bob Biles. He graciously loaned him to us. So the work that the team did, and maybe if the team could stand up while I talk about them, Dave Merrill, Troy, Dorian, Del Burr in the back with the Cowboys hat on. Abe, why don't you come to the side over here? One of the contractors is not here with us today. He's off the contract. And so with the 5 FTE and the project manager, Jerry Van Wee, they, like was alluded to before, this project was completed on time, under budget, and with no outages to the users or to any of the stakeholders in the business. It was actually one of the smoothest IT implementations I've seen. It was so smooth and so non-eventful, I was worried that something major was going to happen. But over the past month and a half, we've had no issues with it. And if a small thing popped up, the project team was able to fix it immediately with no effects to the patrons out there. So just to put this into context, there's no other transit agency in the United States or North America that actually has created their own electronic fare collection system. They depend on vendors, and vendors charge them tens of billions of dollars for these systems and then charge them maintenance per year somewhere to the tune of $1 million. So this team right here that's standing up has delivered a system to UTA that we'll be able to, as an agency, save money and use that money elsewhere. So in a lot of IT projects...
Can I interrupt you? Because I think they deserve a...
They do.
In a lot of IT projects, sometimes we say there's going to be savings, but we actually don't give the money back to the business. In this instance, we did have $800,000 removed from the IT budget as of the start of the budget year, going back to the business. So Bob can attest to that. And so we did have some true ROI. And on top of that, just want to add that UTA is also one of the few transit agencies, actually the only transit agency that maintains and built their own mobile data computer system, computer-aided dispatch system, and automated vehicle locator system. Now, some of those systems are starting to age out, and we're going to have to decide to rewrite or buy. But with the talent that we have at UTA displayed today, it's evident that I believe that UTA could, if chose to do it, develop it in-house, that we could do it. So I just want to thank the project team. I definitely want to thank Dave Garris for having the trust in the IT department to do this, and the rest of the executives for allowing us to do this.
And I would just like to recognize one other team member who's always shy and bashful. Bart Simmons was fabulous in helping us navigate the contract that we had and in negotiations with our vendor. So Bart, thank you very much. We have written a commemorative memo, which will be posted on the walls down in IT, and just the last paragraph that's written on here says, when you take on tough challenges and accomplish them well, you validate the faith and confidence many have in you. Project X was undertaken and completed in an exceptionally collaborative way, which improved coordination and skills within the department. You each and all deserve to be extremely proud of what you have achieved, UTA, and I thank you for your excellent work. We have a commemorative coin that we will give you. So out of all the years worth of work, they got a coin that they can put on their desk to remember this. But it was a fabulous project that we have excellent developers at UTA, very skilled people that we are lucky to have, and did a great job on this.
Can I ask a question in that regard? Is the knowledge base diverse enough, or the documentation such that, we hope that they stay their full career at UTA, but how do you sort of have that knowledge base not walk out the door and then find yourself in a system that you can't support?
So we do have multiple developers that develop that of the system that are in-house. They did develop system documentation along the way. They used the agile development process in this project. And Jerry Van Wee was working with the developers all along to not only ensure, but actually do a lot of the documentation so that the programmers could focus on coding and he would focus on documentation. And then the team created a turnover documentation packet to be turned over to the application support group, headed up by Abe. That's sitting in the back there. He's smiling because the other day he was handed a big iron key of turning over the system to the application support group. And so the programmers that worked on this also belong to in Abe's group, but sometimes in a big project they are carved off and matrixed into a project, and then after the project concludes they fall back into Abe's organization as well.
And I would say we not only have the in-house documentation so we can continue that, but the team developed a user's guide and actually conducted training for all of our stakeholders that use this, and so there's some documentation that they have that they can improve their operations out in their systems.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to ask you, it appears, according to this bouquet, that customer service was one of your trainees or co-partners in terms of evaluating maybe the process and giving you feedback. Have you had any other feedback from any other departments so far?
Monica's group, Fairs Department, deals with this all the time, and then Cindy Medford in customer service. Both of them are just ecstatic, and all the people. Tiffany Connors and the other people in the Fairs group were part of the beta testing throughout the process. And then we've had good feedback from the stakeholders out there on the friendliness and the interactive of the new website. So we have had only good comments on this implementation.
Great. Well, I just wanted to commend you and to commend everyone's hard work and efforts. It's really impressive to see people put their efforts out to do something that is really going to be so impactful, and it just is an amazing success story. So thank you so much for your efforts.
And thanks, Dave, for having the courage to go forward. Sometimes those projects come as albatrosses, in other organizations, and to have the confidence in your team and for your executive staff to support you in that's commendable. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that presentation. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. I'm always bad at reminding folks of who we have joining us, and we have our new board member, Kent Millington, who's with us today and has been interacting with us and quickly catching up to speed. And then last meeting, I forgot to introduce our new board support manager, Jana Osler, who's off to my right or your left, and then we had Kathy Griffiths also join our team and is also working with Steve, and we're grateful to have them with us as well. So, well, next, just a reminder, our next meeting will be a week from today on January the 23rd at 9 a.m. And we'll next go into, entertain a motion to go into a closed session to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close the public session and go into a closed session for the reasons discussed, the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual.
So I think it just recess of the public session, and then we'll go into a closed session. We'll go to another room. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes, and so if you want to choose to remain, you can, but we will be back at the conclusion of that session. So. Thank you for your patience. We've returned from our closed session, and unless there's anything else, Steve or Dana or Kathy or Beth, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting for January 16th, 2019.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
And we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.